So good day, everybody, and welcome to the Bible in a Year version 2021. And we're on day 25, and this is Genesis 20 or 38 to 40. Genesis 38 to 40. So let's get right into this because we never know what's going to happen, right? So Genesis 38. Let's just consider this for a moment, okay? This account, this chapter, this really weird, bizarre chapter, which seems to be inserted in the middle of Joseph's story, um, the account of Judah, and really it's Tamar. That's what we're looking at here. This account leaves us with a number of questions about God, and some of this is probably due to a lack of facts in the narrative as we look at this. We don't have everything. We don't understand everything. And just as we are watching them slowly discovering about God, we're discovering little bits about their culture. Because the focus of this isn't on culture. It's not on history. It's not on that sort of stuff. It is on the slow revelation of who God is. That's what the Bible is all about. Who God is and our relationship with Him. So we get little bits and pieces of the culture, but we don't have the big picture. Unless you go into ancient studies and stuff, we just don't have that kind of information. So we have to be careful here. This is just a cautionary note I'm putting here. We have to be careful not to create doctrine to fill in the spaces. And we're terrible at that. We do that for our own life. We have a problem with letting things be unknown. We have a problem with walking away from stuff um, without the blanks. We hate blanks. We just hate blanks. And it's more than just high school and university exams. We just hate blanks in our lives. We need to fill it in. With our theology, we need to fill it in. And we have to understand that God has only revealed what we need to know. There's a lot of other stuff that our curiosity for maybe a rounder, better understanding. And what we have to do is we always have to keep everything that we're studying in the Bible in context, the whole Bible, with everything that we know. So when we look at this, there's even some questions that I pose as we go through this. Some things just don't have an answer. And it feels weird because we don't have answers. Um, we just have to accept that mystery exists. We just have to accept that mystery exists. There's things about God that remain a mystery for us. There's things about situations that remain a mystery for us. We are not the fount of all knowledge. We are not able to take in all the information. He doesn't allow us to hear from all the witnesses. We only know so much, and you just have to accept it. Sorry, but as frustrating as that might be, that's where we are. So let's go forward on this. So, yeah, just let's just stop and consider verse 7 for a second here in 38, chapter 38. Um, the Lord considered Judah's oldest son, immoral, and the Lord put him to death. My question, okay, I don't know about you guys, but my question is with all the stuff that we've read, with all the stuff that we've already experienced thus far, in just like a few weeks into reading the Bible, how immoral did this guy have to be to deserve death? We've we've read some really terrible stuff that people have done, and like just how bad did it have to be for God to put him to death? Um, is there a different sense of morality than what we have today? Did morality mean a different thing, such as did morality have to do with interaction with God, with actions toward God? Because it's some of the translations have translated the account of Abraham, where some would say that it was translated, God accredited him with righteousness, right? And others is saying that God considered him to be of high um, morality. And okay, so is that high morality because of his interaction with God, because he trusted God, because when God spoke, Abraham listened, and Abraham acted immediately upon what God said, but that morality did not, it did not exist, or it wasn't as important with the way that Abraham was treating the people around him, with his deception, with the rulers and his wife and all the things that we see there. It wasn't that Abraham was terribly immoral, not at all. He had integrity in the way he dealt with people, but the way he dealt with God was at a higher level. So is this referral to morality then, something where it is actions toward God? So did do something like, see, this is what I'm talking about. It is so possible to overanalyze with things that we don't have information for and come up with doctrine. And I could just decide, okay, yeah, did something towards God or against God, and God put him to death. I don't know. I'm just looking at what I do know, and I have to leave it there. Okay, was so immoral, but God put him to death, and let's move on. But then we come smack dab into this one. Yeah, in verses 8 to 10. We have here, Judah said to Onan, go to your brother's wife, do your duty as her brother-in-law, and provide children for your brother. Onan knew the children wouldn't be his, so when he slept with his brother's wife, he wasted his semen on the ground, so he wouldn't give his brother children. The Lord considered what he did as wrong and put him to death. What? Yeah, there's something here, people. There's something here. There's something that maybe we've missed along the way. This is something really important. You don't waste opportunities to have children. Having children, the Lord considered having children to be very important, so important, it was one of the commands that he gave in the garden. He said, multiply. He said to Noah, multiply. He said, fill the earth. That's what he said, fill the earth. And here was somebody who was refusing to do that. So, was this an act of immorality towards God? Well, what we do know is that it was something that was very offensive to God, and he ended up killing Onan. So you know what Judah's looking at this, and he's saying, "Man, there's death all around this woman. No, there's death dripping off of Tamar." He doesn't look at the fact that it's his sons that have done wrong here. He just does not want his youngest son to hang around Tamar. Now, um, let's just consider something here. Let's consider Tamar for a moment. Just look and consider how important the emphasis that's being put on here, to have a child in your dead brother's name. You see, we all think that started with Moses. We all think that was written into the law that started with Moses. But there's something here that's been conveyed by God to say that every person who is born, it is important that that family line, that line continue. There's something here. It's in the culture. It's in the culture of the people here. Preserving the family line was culturally important, so important that what Judah does by holding back his son from Tamar was an offensive thing. Now, because I mean, Tamar is having this sense of being trapped because she wasn't free to marry again. She couldn't find another husband to have children, and having children was highly prized. And it doesn't look like the fertility rate was overly large, because we see with Rachel and with Leah that they just couldn't have however many kids that they wanted. There were times that they could have kids and times that they couldn't have kids, and Rachel was only able to give birth twice. So it's not like there's a high reproduction rate. So, but this reproduction, this being fruitful was or multiplying, sorry, this multiplying was very, very important. And she's not free to have children. She's not free to marry somebody else. And the youngest son is not being given to her. And it meant no children for her. So that's where the desperation would come from. She's sitting in shame, and it has nothing to do with her. I mean, she didn't make do whatever he did to deserve death, and she certainly didn't make Onan do that because she wanted to have kids. So this so many situations where we read this, and I apologize to the women, because man, as we read this, I would be offended just to see how anyway, that's a whole different thing, isn't it? So let's consider the values here. Okay, in verse 15. Verse 15. So Tamar has decided, she hears that her father-in-law is going to a certain place, so she decides to go and dress like a prostitute. It seems to be in the hope of trapping her father-in-law and getting her pregnant. I mean, where do you come up with this stuff? Judah saw her and thought she was a prostitute because she had covered her face. He turned to her beside the road and said, "Let me sleep with you," because he didn't know she was his daughter-in-law. As if the only thing wrong here would be the fact that he was his daughter-in-law. But hey, it doesn't seem that there's any rules against prostitution. At least that hasn't been revealed yet. That, I mean, there would be a knowing in the wrong, but we don't have the law yet to define this thing. We have multiple wives going on, which is not something that God ordained or was very pleased with. But this is what's going on. It was such a mess that there were certain things that God conveyed, other things that he overlooked for a period of time. And it seemed to be this is one of the things he overlooked. But I mean, the question, so wasting your semen was deserving of death, but using a woman you're not married to for sex was overlooked. So do you understand what I'm saying? That this stuff is all developing. We have to understand that as we're moving forward, these things are developing, understanding the values of what's right and wrong, and good and evil, and what's righteous and unrighteous, holy and unholy. These things are all being revealed as God is being revealed. So we can understand that Judah's relationship with the Lord may have not have been all that great, while considering he was using a shrine prostitute, which was some form of worshiping other gods. I don't fully understand it myself, but that, God didn't kill him for that, but he killed Onan because of the wastage of semen. Wow. And then we have this inconsistency, morality towards each other. I'm going to keep the morality towards God separate, but this morality towards each other. In 24, about verse 24, about 3 months later, Judah was told, "Your daughter-in-law Tamar has become a prostitute and is now pregnant because of it." And Judah said, "Bring her out so that she may be burned." Buddy, it's because you treated her like a prostitute. It's because you went looking for a prostitute, because you used her. Like, so even when he found out that it was him, when that was exposed, Um, yeah, the fact that he used a prostitute didn't even um, raise an eyebrow. What he considered, why he said that she was more righteous than he was because of the fact that he withheld his youngest son from her when the onus was on him to give her his son as a husband. And so that's why he was saying, like, I'm totally in the wrong here, not because he used a prostitute, but because of this thing that had cultural value of preserving your brother's um, bloodline, really. Okay, so an interesting fact that comes out of all of this, okay, so that you can have something uplifting here. An interesting fact: Perez, who is the son that resulted from Judah and Tamar's non-sanctified sex, so that's sex outside of marriage, in case you were wondering, was the ancestor of King David. Yeah, there you go. He was the ancestor of King David, according to the book of Ruth. There's a lot of shady situations in the history of David, because you remember that he one of his ancestors was also a prostitute, a foreign prostitute. Of that, there's all kinds of stuff. But if that's true of David, then you have to understand it's also true of Jesus. So if Perez is the ancestor of King David, he's also the ancestor of Jesus, and we know that Perez was the ancestor of King David because it's written in the book of Ruth, and we know he's the ancestor of Jesus because it's listed in Matthew and Luke. So there you go. Very interesting, isn't it? Don't ever think that something is beyond God ever bringing good stuff out of. There you are. Okay, so going on to chapter 39 and verse 2. Um, I wanted to highlight this one time because it's all throughout Joseph's story. Some of you are more familiar with Joseph's story probably than with anything else in the Bible. But notice this: the Lord was with Joseph, and he became a successful man and served in Egypt's master's household. Um, sorry, in his Egyptian master's household. So this gets stated again and again and again. The Lord was with Joseph, and he became successful. The Lord was with Joseph, and he became successful. We're going to look at something else in just a second here, so I just want you to hold on to that. But look at the integrity of Joseph. Okay, I don't want to set aside this whole fact. Joseph was actually an incredible young man. Um, in verse 8 9, he refused because he's handsome apparently and well built, and it's not just not men who are pigs but women as well. It has to do with positions of power and authority and what you can get away with. And so the master's wife is trying to have sex with Joseph. So we think it's messed up today. Man, it was just as messed up then. He refused and said to his master's wife, "With me here, my master doesn't pay attention to anything in his household. He's put everything he has under my supervision. No one is greater than I am in this household, and he hasn't denied me anything except you, since you are his wife. How could I do this terrible thing and sin against God?" See, there's Joseph. It's not just about his master. It's not about the kindness the master showed to him. It's not the trust the master. He would be offending God. It would be an immoral act because it's against God. Wow. Every single day she tried to convince him, but he wouldn't agree to sleep with her or even be with her. He wouldn't even be in the same room with her. Um, and that's how we know that it was entrapment. Is what happened to him. Um, right here, this is not a new thing, okay? Injustice is not a new thing. Joseph's master took him and threw him in jail, the place where the king's prisoners were held. I hold to the fact, this isn't doctrine, I hold to the fact that there's no way that Joseph's master didn't know. Listen, a woman of good character uh, may flirt a little bit. A woman of good character may fall once, but it's a woman of good character is not going to constantly be pursuing somebody who said no. That tells you that there's some rottenness to the core there, and it would show up in other areas. So I really believe that Joseph Master knew exactly who his wife was and who was at fault here, but he had to save face. And that's my take on it. Okay, that's me filling in the blanks, I guess, telling you not to do that. But no, that's not a doctrine. That's not something I would live and die on. But that's as I look at this and I see the injustice of this because it's terribly unjust. But it's not a new thing, and it's been around since Cain and Abel. You know, Abel did not deserve to die. That was injustice. Abel did the right thing, and Cain didn't. And Cain lived, and Abel died. Um, but understand that every action that is happening for and against Joseph, for and against him, is bringing him closer to the royal court, bringing him to his destiny, bringing to the place that the Creator is moving him to. Because remember, this story has to go forward. This plan has to go forward. And in this point, Joseph is the salvation of Israel. Joseph would be used for the preservation of Israel, so Israel did not starve to death and was not set upon by others who were in desperate situations. But Israel is going to be brought into the safety of Egypt and the provision of Egypt. But God had to get Joseph to that position. Um, Now, a lot of people, I've heard a lot of people talk about the integrity and hard work of Joseph, and there's no doubt. There was integrity and hard work. But at the earlier verse that we were looking at, it was because of the favor of the Lord. Look at this. While he was in jail, the Lord was with Joseph. There we go again. The Lord was with Joseph and remained loyal to him. God was loyal to Joseph. Doesn't that just blow your mind? He caused the jail's commander to think highly of Joseph. He caused the jailer's commander. He caused the jail's commander. I'm going to say it again. He caused the jail's commander to think highly of Joseph. Uh, Man, Joseph had to do his part. Joseph was of great integrity. Joseph was not slothful, hard worker, determined, all this sort of stuff. But you know, you can have all the right stuff, and if you don't have the favor of God, it's not going anywhere. You have to have the favor of God uh, to go to the place that God wants you to be. So, and that's what's happened. The jail's commander put all of the prisoners in the jail under Joseph's supervision. And he was the one who determined everything that happened there. It was Joseph determined everything that happened there. The jail's commander paid no attention to anything under Joseph's supervision because because the Lord was with him and made everything he did successful. So, yes, we appreciate Joseph, but he wouldn't get there without God. God was everything, and we need to hold on to that. And I don't think for a moment that things are by chance in your life. If you come across somebody, it was for a purpose. It wasn't a chance happening. In Genesis 44, we see while he was in jail, okay, while he was in jail, the Lord was with Joseph and remained loyal to him. Oh, I didn't change the verse. Don't tell me that. Okay, so anyway, sorry about that. You can look up. How did I miss that? You can look up Genesis 44, and you'll see it's where the baker and the wine tester were jailed. It just happened to be at the time that Joseph was also in jail, and they made that connection. It wasn't by chance. That was a complete setup. Sorry about that mess up there. Down in verse 8, we see that we don't have anything that tells us that Joseph had any encounter. Jacob had all kinds of encounters. Jacob saw angels everywhere. Isaac had one or two encounters. Abraham had a number of encounters. Nothing like Jacob, but he had a number of encounters. But we're not seeing here that Joseph has any encounter. We're not seeing anything where Joseph speaks face to face with messengers, sees angels. But what he does have is a lot of dreams. He receives a lot of dreams, and he also has been given that ability to understand dreams. That's only from God. That's God who does that. And so we have here, they answered, we both had dreams, but there's no one to interpret them. Joseph said to them, don't interpretations belong to God? Describe your dreams to me. Okay, so there's Joseph standing there saying, well, don't interpretations belong to God? So they must have seen him in a priestly role of some sort, that he was there representing God, because he turns around and says, describe your dreams to me. They tell him the dreams. He gives them the interpretation, and they believe it. They receive it just like that. So that's a lot. That's a lot there unloaded for you. And I just pray that you have just an incredible, wonderful, blessed day. And yeah, love you guys. Let's keep in touch. Let's keep going. And same time, same place tomorrow. God bless.